Now, from the time I put my name on the list, by the time I get there, whether I'm going to talk about the things I wanted to talk about. So I did about 3 things that I would have liked to talk about, and I'm going to focus on the last one last. First thing is, if you have not listened to the CBC radio series called How to Think About Science, I urge you, I implore you, I get down on my knees and ask you, please, please, please listen to this series, because it has so many things that are so important to the task and the business of testing. It's a set of ways of looking at the world and a set of ways of questioning the monopoly that science sometimes has on the way we look at the world. And I think there may be a talk tomorrow that has some association with that, some affiliation with that. The second thing that I'm excited about lately is a book called Seeing Like a State, and a concept called legibility. And the reason that I'm excited about that is because I recognize that one of the things that the book talks about, a foundational aspect of the book, is the fact that complex systems are confusing. They're confusing to the people who want to get value out of them, because typically the value that they want to extract is a single dimension of value. In particular, the dude who wrote the book, a guy named James Scott, focuses on forestry. That's where he starts his story. He starts with forestry in Germany in the 18th century, maybe the 19th century, I forget which. And it wasn't Germany then, it was Prussia. The issue was that they wanted to extract value out of the forest by collecting timber from it. But it was complicated. It was hard to understand how the forest worked. There were all these weird interconnecting systems of plants and different kinds of trees and so on that were growing up. And it was confusing. It was confusing because it was so complex. It would be so much easier if we mowed the whole thing down and planted a whole bunch of trees in orderly rows. And that's what they did. And 60 years later, they had beautiful, easily understood tree farms. And the next generation of trees failed, because all of the things that made the system hard to understand were essential to the continuation of growing trees. And of growing trees that had influence, trees and other plants and animals that had interrelationships with one another in an ecology. A set of forces in balance with one another, a systems view of the world. So I urge you to read that book. The last thing that I want to talk about that I'm really excited about is when I look around the room, I see people from Britain, Canada, Sweden, the United States and Britain, Sweden, India, Sweden by heritage, Tamil Nadu probably, or Sri Lanka, I'm not sure which. India. I'm not sure where you're from. Netherlands, Germany, Belgium, Britain. Ooh, there's a lot of Brits here. Denmark. Here we are in Denmark. There's a Dane. Australia, Sweden, Britain, the Netherlands, Israel, Canada. Look at all these different things, and that puts me in mind of a guy named Wade Davis, a Canadian guy. He's the explorer in residence at the National Geographic Society, or he was for a long time anyway. And he talked about culture. He talked about different cultures and different languages. We think we've got a problem with biodiversity. Look at the problem we're facing with linguistic diversity. At the beginning of this century, there were 7,000 different human languages. We're down to about 6,000. And they're decreasing at a rate of about 25 languages a year. Every 2 weeks, the last speaker of a language vanishes from the earth. And the reason that that's important, the reason that I'm so excited to be amongst all these people from all these different cultures and all these different languages is because of what he says about language. When we ask the question, what does it mean to be human? Mankind responds in 6,000 different voices. I think it is very important for us to get away from the idea of a single common language for testing and start to recognize and treasure the diversity and the different views and the different perspectives that we obtain by virtue of the fact that we have different languages, different cultures, and different contexts in which we use these amazing things that the programmers write for us. And we have, therefore, different measures of value by which we might assess and evaluate those things. Thanks.